Hello, and thank you for exploring Lakehead International's videos. My name is Jordan, and I am the International New and Social Media Officer. I'm also the host of the Lakehead International Live series, a fun and informative way for you to connect with current international students, professors, and ask questions about admissions and everything Lakehead. You are about to watch a recording from one of our previous live sessions. If any questions arise throughout the video, please do not hesitate to comment below. If you would like to check out some of our upcoming live sessions, please head over to our website at lakeheadu.ca/international-live. Let's begin. Hello and welcome to another Lakehead International Live. My name is Jordan. I'll be your host today. I'm joined by a few special guests here today to chat about today's topic of applying for your student visa. So this is chatting about after you've received your letter of acceptance or your offer from Lakehead University and getting ready for that next stage of securing your student visa and making your journey to Canada. Again, for those of you who haven't met me before, my name is Jordan Ball. I'm the International New and Social Media Officer. I help run our live events, our digital experiences, our social media channels, and plenty more. But I'll pass it over to Hector to introduce himself, and then we'll go down the line.
Hello, everyone. My name is Hector Michelena, and I am one of the International Recruitment Officers here at Lakehead University. My main role is to help prospective students like you find the right program here at Lakehead University and help you or guide you through the applications and admissions process. And I'm here to answer any questions about your application process that you may have. And yeah, I'll pass it on to Jennifer.
Thanks, Hector. And hello, good morning, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Jennifer Hay. I am the International Immigration Advisor with Lakehead University. I am a RISIA, so a Regulated International Student Immigration Advisor, and here to help answer all of those study permit questions. And I'll pass it over to my coworker, Laura.
Thanks, Jennifer. Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Puttis, and I'm an international student advisor based in the Thunder Bay campus. So my role involves me providing international students with academic support, housing support, financial, personal counseling, all of those things. If you have any questions or concerns, you can always feel comfortable approaching me. And I am on my way to start immigration advising hopefully soon. So I'm here to learn as well with all of you.
Awesome. Well, thank you again to our guests for joining us today. I think we'd be without them, we'd be lost in today's session. They're the ones with all the knowledge and all the information to share. So I'm really excited to have them. Before we dive into today's session, I'll chat about our agenda, what we're going to cover. We're going to first look over our upcoming events, so other events in the Lakehead International Live series. We'll chat about the status of your Lakehead application and the next steps you might have. And then we'll chat a bit about conditional offers, biometrics, medical exams, program end date, co-op internships, employment, processing times, passport expiry, as well as the company family members. So we have quite a few topics to get through today. We've done it in the past, and we'll do it again. We'll power through. So I do encourage, for those of you who might have some questions, hold off on the questions for now. We will have a dedicated live question and answer period at the end of today's webinar. However, we're going to cover a lot of the details and a lot of the information that we know are common questions among incoming students and new applicants. So hold off on those questions for right now, and we'll be happy to answer them towards the end. With regards to upcoming events, we do have many upcoming events, including tomorrow there's a session called the In-Depth Session with Economics. So that's Wednesday, April 7th at 9 a.m. You can sign up for that now on lakeheadu.ca/international-live. So that is our website. You can register for any one of these webinars, actually. We also have nursing and psychology upcoming. Following that, we do have a dedicated session for research at Lakehead, and then we have a mock lecture series where you're going to get a sample for lectures here at Lakehead University. So once again, you can register for the 3 on your screen right now on our website, and that's part of the Academics Explored series. A part of the Lakehead Explored series, we dive into a bit more of the student life and student sports on our campuses. And so next week on Monday, April 12th at 9 a.m., we're doing a session about getting involved and student life at Lakehead University. So you'll learn a bit more about athletics, recreation, living on campus, things to get involved in, clubs, leadership opportunities, and so much more. It's really going to be an in-depth session, and I hope that you're excited for it just like I am. Following that, we'll do another session with residents and housing to remind our folks that are intending on coming to Thunder Bay and joining us, or Aurelia, pardon me, Thunder Bay or Aurelia this fall. Your application and housing deadline is going to be at the beginning of June. And so I encourage you to come out to one of our earlier sessions, either the next one in April 19th, or potentially we have one in May as well for you to join and learn more about residents, figure out what option is going to be best for you, and then of course, learn about how to apply. Following that, we also have sessions dedicated to student supports, my journey to Lakehead student panel, as well as a session where we're going to get to meet all of our future advisors. So of course, you've already met Jennifer and Laura, but there's plenty more on our team that we're excited to introduce you to. With that being said, I want to remind our viewers of a few things. If you like what you see, don't worry, we are recording today's session, and we'll be sending out a link on our regular weekly emails for the invite. If you do have questions, again, I want to encourage you to use the Q&A function on Zoom. You can use that simply by submitting your question. We'll get that in an orderly manner. If you do use the chat, we'll also do our best to answer those or encourage you to use the Q&A. If you're watching this after the fact as a recording, you can comment on the video wherever it might be, and we'll be happy to answer after the fact. And last but not least, I want to encourage you to stay connected. Follow us on our social media channels. You can find us at Lakehead International on both Instagram and Facebook. You can also find our main channel, Lakehead University, on YouTube. Without further ado, though, we'll chat about the status of your Lakehead application. And with that being said, we will dive into a poll first, actually. Pardon me. No, we won't dive into a poll quite yet. It's coming up. The status of your application is an important consideration. This is where you might see on your MyInfo account. So for those of you who don't know, or maybe haven't accessed it quite yet, maybe haven't applied to Lakehead, that's fine. But if you have applied to Lakehead University, you would have access to something called MyInfo. MyInfo is your Lakehead University student portal. It's where your application is housed. It's where you can find regular updates for your application, as well as move on to the next steps of applying for awards, bursaries, housing, all that sort of stuff. So there's a few different statuses that we want you to be aware about. If you have a current status of admitted conditionally, or ADC, that means that we need final documents from you, and your offer letter is currently conditional. If you've been admitted, or ADM, you have been admitted with no conditions at all, and your letter is considered unconditional. If you are ELI, that means you've also been admitted or admitted conditionally, and you are now eligible to register for your courses. Most students will not be eligible to register for courses until July, assuming that you're coming for the fall. If you're joining us for this spring session, you should be eligible to register in the next little while here. There's a few other application statuses that I wanted to chat about, though, and that includes incomplete, pending, and refuse. So incomplete, or INC, means that your application is incomplete, and we do require more information for your application. So whether it's submitting more documents, whether it's submitting additional material for your application, our admissions teams will certainly communicate any areas that they still need information from, or alternatively, if they have questions about a specific document, they might reach out to you. And so I encourage you to stay connected with them and monitor your email on a regular basis, both your personal email that was used in the application, as well as accessing that MyInfo account, which then will connect you to your Lakehead University email. If your status is pending, that means that your application is complete, but a decision has not yet been reached on your offer. And so with that being said, I want to remind you to stay patient. Our admissions teams are working diligently to send out as many offers as possible and review as many applications. But they also do it on a rolling basis, and admissions timelines do vary depending on what program and what level of study you are applying for. So keep that in mind. If it says pending, please be patient with us. If you have any concerns, though, you can always reach out directly to our admissions teams. And if you've been refused, so REF, that means that we've reviewed your application, and based on the criteria for admission requirements or the current candidate pool, you did not satisfy the requirements to be admitted or receive that offer to Lakehead University. If you have any more questions, you have the contact details right within the refusal letter or the refusal email. And so with that being said, I encourage you to reach out to our admissions teams if you do have any questions. If you are on the left-hand column and you've been admitted, conditionally admitted, or you're ELI, eligible to register, you may proceed to your application. And with that being said, we want to congratulate you on your offer, and we want to welcome you to the Lakehead University family. With that being said, we will now launch the poll, and I want to get a feeler out for our audience and see what is your current Lakehead University status. So give me 1 second to launch that poll, and we will allow you to have a vote. So we have 3 options: undergraduate or bachelor. We have graduate, so both master's and PhD, as well as academic English program. So if you're intending on studying English as a secondary language here at Lakehead University. So we'll give that maybe 10 more seconds as votes start to roll in. It looks like it's a pretty fair balance between the 2 of them right now. Graduate might be leading by a bit, but it's great to see that we have an amazing turnout today with so many students. With that being said, I will end the poll and I will share the results with everyone. So as you can see, we have 35% of today's audience is going to be attending graduate or undergraduate, for bachelor degrees. And then 65% is going to be attending for a graduate degree, so a master's level or a PhD. So thank you again for joining us today. It's good to know where our audience comes from. There's going to be a few more polls in today's session, so stay tuned for those. And with that being said, I will pass it over to Jennifer, where we're going to chat about next steps, applying online from outside of Canada, making our IRCC account, gathering the required documents, as well as entry requirements.
Thanks, Jordan. And of course, we know processing is delayed all over the world for visa and study permits. So as soon as you have your acceptance to Lakehead, that is the time you should start your visa processing. First thing you want to do, obviously, is gather the documents that you need and make sure that you are ready to do the online application. So you have to make sure all your documents are scanned copies. They can be in PDF, JPEG, or Word documents. And sometimes you may have to combine multiple documents into one file, as they only allow 1 upload per document. And you also need to make sure these documents stay under 4 megabytes or smaller. There are instruction guides, but I would always recommend just starting creating your account and signing in. Once you answer the questions, it will bring you to the correct application, as there are different requirements for different countries. The application fee for a study permit is $150, and you may be subject to the biometric fee, which is $85. So of course, there are 2 ways to make an IRCC account. This is done on the IRCC, or sometimes I still say CIC website. And most students are outside of Canada, so you will be creating a GC key. The partner sign-in allows you to use a Canadian bank account for logging in, but since you are all first-time applicants, you will use the GC key. So once you go to the website, the screen will look just like this, and you're going to go to the right side and sign up for an account. Please know it's very important to keep your username and password handy and also secure, and also take screenshots of all your recovery questions. I couldn't tell you how many times students have locked themselves out of their account, and you need to be able to access this to be able to get those requests and updates. Okay, so now you're going to start to gather the documents. Course number 1 is your letter of acceptance from Lakehead University. We don't have any English learners today, but normally I would recommend putting your AEP offer along with your undergraduate or graduate offer together. And you need proof of identity, which would be your passport, and proof of finance. Please note there are many different documents you can include for proof of finance. I know lots of students have questions about what the fall fees will look like, or if they're applying through different programs or streams. You can pay your tuition based on what the tuition fees are as of now, 2020 to 2021. We know there may be a slight increase, or they are subject to change, but immigration is not going to refuse your application based on the fact that you paid the fees that are available to you at the time you applied. So for yourself, you need to know that you may have to pay a little top up of tuition, but you can just base your payment on there and use that tuition receipt for your study permit application. You don't have to pay your full tuition in advance unless you are applying through the SDS stream. Proof of finance can be shown through your own bank accounts in your home country, any payments, residence fees or leases, anything you pay towards your accommodations. Sometimes your parents will include information, sponsorship letters or funding letters. You can combine all the documents that you need, but immigration needs to know that you can support yourself for 1 year of tuition, so 2 semesters for undergrad and 3 semesters for graduate students, and $10,000 Canadian for living expenses. So they're looking at usually anywhere from 35 to 45,000 for your first year. So the next thing that happens after you apply for a study permit is that you will send your passport for stamping. This is called the temporary residency visa, or travel visa is what most people will use. Once the permit is approved, you do still need a document to be able to enter. Many countries, almost all countries, will use the visa. However, there are some countries that are visa exempt and they use what's called an ETA. A lot of European countries, I know Taiwan is definitely one, and students that come from certain countries, when you fill out the form, it will tell you which one you need. But the electronic travel authorization is much easier. It's a quick emailed application, cost $8, and it will be the same length as your passport. So very easy for you to enter and exit. The temporary residency visa will be issued to your passport expiry. So, or sorry, your study permit expiry. So whenever the studies will end is when your travel period will end. And if you decide to study longer or graduate and apply for work permit, that's when you'll meet with me and we will extend these documents throughout your time.
Awesome. And with that being said, I know, Jen, you actually have a session later today with some of our graduating students to help them prepare for that postgraduate work permit as they're looking at the end of their degree and they're looking to potentially stay in Canada and hopefully work in Canada. And so that's really exciting. It's a great service that you can offer to our students after their degree and they're ready to stay in Canada and use that work experience and their knowledge that they've gained in their program to hopefully get a job. I know many students, and as a part of this whole process, are always curious. They've heard, should I use a conditional offer letter? Should I use an unconditional offer letter? I know that it's a very common question, and I know in the past we've been pretty clear about what our recommendations are. So I'll let you chat a bit about this and sort of the implications.
Yes, and I know that there's 2 things you must consider. So country-specific requirements sometimes where people tell me, like, if I use a conditional offer for English and I'm from India, my study permit will be refused. It's not a rule by immigration, but it's a rule that everybody knows. You want to use an unconditional offer just to support your application. However, we know processing is really slow. For example, in China, we're waiting over 200 days for visa stamping. So we know that you must apply with your conditional offer so you can apply right away. And then you'll be able to update your file later on. So note that it is okay to use a conditional offer, but I always recommend explaining this in your application. Inside your uploads, there's a spot called client information. And here you can give any explanation that you need to. For example, I'm applying with my conditional offer based on my graduation of my high school. I would write in this explanation letter, I am including my conditional offer from Lakehead as I am in my final semester of the high school in Dubai. And once I finish my high school in June, I will be updating the university and receiving my unconditional offer. At this time, I will also update IRCC. This is something that we do all the time. Immigration actually recommends you submit that incomplete application just because we have to allow for enough time for processing. And you need to have a couple months in to get your biometric request and everything else. So if you have any concerns, again, my email will be shared at the end and you can reach out to me directly. But due to the processing times, we definitely do recommend applying, even if you have a conditional offer, just applying right away.
And on top of that, Jen, I know that many students are always wondering if I have to submit that update, what does that process look like for submitting updates to IRCC?
Thanks, Jordan. Sometimes immigration will actually send you a request and give you time to upload that document in your file, but the majority of times you're going to use the IRCC web form. So the web form allows you to send an email inquiry to immigration, because God knows they do not answer the phone very often or can't get to it, where you can actually upload documents and attach things to your file. Sometimes you don't have enough room to upload your documents. So you can even use a web form to give additional supporting documents to your file. And this is very easy to do. If you just search web form on their website, it will bring you to that page, and it's literally just fill out the information about your application and UCI. And then you have a text box, you can add whatever you want and then upload up to 4 documents.
Perfect. So next we're going to chat about biometrics, which is the part of that same process you were just talking about. It of course comes after receiving that initial approval.
Yes, of course. And in 2019, the biometrics were expanded throughout almost all countries, I think, except for the USA. So chances are, if you are a new applicant to Canada, you will be sent a biometric request. And this means you will actually go visit the visa center closest to you and give your fingerprints and an eye scan. If you've come to Canada in the past 10 years and already done this, you can say yes in your application that you've completed biometrics. No matter if you came to visit, study, or work, those biometric collection is only done once every 10 years and will be valid for you. This is the part that might cause you some delay because of they're just catching up. There was lots of closures due to COVID. So I know even in Canada, the embassy is like 70 days behind. So definitely expect some delays with biometrics.
For sure. And something that we noticed last year, even at the very beginning of the pandemic, when we all went remote, was that our recommendations for students to submit their applications to IRCC in some cases may have fell on no requests and no follow-ups to that. And so what we saw were students that were able to submit right away, although there was a significant delay. It essentially puts you in that waiting list. It puts you in the queue to be assessed. So although you might consider not submitting right now because you think you have plenty of time or you don't think the delay will affect you, if you get in that queue now, even with that conditional offer letter, you can start that process sooner than later. And what we've already talked about, submitting the web form with an updated unconditional offer letter, providing additional material and supporting documents to showcase how you're going to satisfy those requirements. It's all important in the process on a broader scale. The next thing is medical exams, and I'll pass it over to Jennifer to talk about.
So normally I don't recommend doing an advanced medical exam. You can complete the questionnaire when you submit your study permit, and if immigration requires one, they will send it to you. However, we know some specific countries want a medical for any application done. So if you do want an advance, a medical is good for 1 year. You can give the upfront medical within your application, or you can wait until IRCC actually requests it. We do know that sometimes it's hard to access medical exams or there's lots of fees involved. So it's definitely up to you. However, you would know from your home country, all your applicants or your agent says, yes, medical exams are required. There is a list on the IRCC website, so you can see what countries are required for this and get your medical done for your application as well.
Awesome. So next we'll chat about program end dates, which actually refers to during the application and the length of studies you're going to have at Lakehead University, so that we make sure your permit is going to be valid throughout that length. And of course, if anything was to happen, if you were to receive a 1-year permit, Jennifer will be happy to help you in that process of getting the extended permit or extending it, the date on it itself. But from the outset, it's really important that if you do include these recommendations or you follow these recommendations, you should have smooth sailing essentially. So Jen, I'll let you chat a bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. I just like to remind our applicants that on our letters of acceptance, there really isn't an end date on your program. So sometimes immigration is trying to guess when your program ends. So when you complete your application form, the IMM form, it will ask you your start and end date. So please just try to use a rough estimate of your 2-year program, 3-year program, and put that end date. And I usually recommend using the August 31st or December 30th, 31st date, just so that you have enough time to apply for your work permit. Like Jordan said, I'm here to help you do extensions if needed, but extensions cost $150 and will cost 2 months of processing. Then you also have to renew a visa. So it can cost lots of time and money. And if you can get it right off the bat, then you don't have to worry about doing any extensions, just applying for your work permit when you graduate.
Awesome. And so Jen, would you be able to explain the recommended sort of, just so they get an idea of whether or not if they're studying a 1-year master's or a 4-year undergraduate program, what our recommendations are?
For sure. So a 1-year master's program, so the MBA 12-month or the master's in forestry, if you start in a September 2021, you would use August 31st, 2022 as your end date. They will automatically give you a couple extra months with that, but you would use that end date so that it covers your full study period. A lot of programs will end in May or April. So if you don't include that August date, I often see lots of master's students whose study permit will expire in July, and we have to pay and do the whole process just for that 1 extra month. Another example, if you're a 4-year undergraduate student, you can use the April 30th end date, but add your 4 years. So if you're starting in 2021, you want to make sure that you have 2025 August as your end date. And I also like to remind students that immigration can never issue permits or visas beyond your passport expiry. So sometimes you have a passport that may be expiring within 2 to 3 years. It's too early for you to renew it. So then you may have to apply with that permit. And then once you have a new passport in the future, we would extend that.
I think there is a dedicated slide for that too. I thought it might be the next one, so I thought I would check, but the next one's co-op internships and employment, which I know many students are excited about this prospect and this opportunity to work while they study, but also potentially do a paid placement within their academic program. And I know that involves another layer of this whole process with immigration. So Jen, I'll let you elaborate on that a bit.
Yes, and for students, there's 3 types of work that you will do when you come to Canada. So there's on and off campus part-time work that you just collect income, you're doing on the side, not related to your studies. And you're allowed to work up to 20 hours a week while you're in Canada. And then outside of that, you have co-op work. And this is dedicated work that's part of your studies. You are actually registering and paying tuition and completing this as a component of your program. And that you actually require a separate permit. It's called a co-op work permit. If you are an undergraduate student, you may notice it says with co-op on your letter of acceptance, and you can actually apply for your co-op work permit right away. Many of our co-op programs don't actually accept you until you complete your first year and you meet a certain GPA requirement. So therefore, chances are you likely will get an approval for your co-op after your first year of studies, and you will come see me or come to one of our workshops where we do the co-op work permit application. The nice thing about this is it's a free application, but sometimes processing is slow. So thankfully, you should get at least 1 term in advance. You should know you're accepted, and definitely don't delay. Just apply for that co-op work permit right away.
Awesome. So the next we'll chat about processing times. So this is another connection to the whole process and chatting about how processing times can vary between countries. So Jen, I'll let you elaborate on this a bit. And then of course we can chat about the screenshot too.
Yeah, so processing time is found on the IRCC website. It is just an estimate. It does not include weekends and holidays, and it changes all the time. So you may have applied and it said 13 weeks, and now it says 20 weeks. So your application will be processed in 20 weeks or whatever continues to happen. It's not based on the date that you've applied. So again, it's constantly changing. And this will give you a good idea of how much time you need to apply. So it's always good to look in to see from your home country, how quick are they processing study permits right now, and then work backwards to give yourself that time. This is updated probably weekly on the IRCC website.
Awesome. So with that being said, we'll chat about passport expiry, which I know we slightly covered, but I'll give you an opportunity to sort of elaborate on it a bit more, or reiterate the importance of having a fully extended passport.
Yeah, so I always recommend renewing your passport before you come to Canada if possible. Some countries only give 5-year passports, and some of them are very strict about the renewal process. But just to give you an idea, a student from Nigeria had to wait 6 months to get an interview date to go to his embassy in Ottawa to renew a passport. So it took a long time, very stressful, had to travel in the middle of COVID and have all sorts of additional expenses. Again, it's possible to renew your passport here in Canada, but definitely recommend coming with a nice, long, valid passport off the bat. And we'll save you lots of time, lots of money with extensions and so forth. But again, some countries are very strict and don't allow you to give too much notice or only give you a 5-year passport. So you may have to renew this in Canada. And again, this is something I can help you with.
Awesome. So this next slide actually comes with another poll. So I'll launch that poll for our audience and we'll get started with chatting about dependents and accompanying family members. So simply, we would like to know from the audience whether or not you do intend on bringing any dependents. So I'll give it some time for some students to answer.
Children.
So it looks like a number of our viewers today do plan on bringing either a children or a spouse with them. I'll end the poll now and I'll launch the results so everyone can see. So we had 22 people on today's session who do plan on bringing either a children or a spouse with them to join them for their studies in Canada. 56 said no, so bear with us. We'll chat about this briefly, but we want to give the full information for all of our viewers. So Jen, I'll let you chat about that. It's actually just this slide where we have it dedicated for.
Yes, and Lakehead wants you to know, once you accept into our Lakehead family, we accept your family as well. So part of our process here in advising with students, we support the visa process for your family members, so your children or spouse. I definitely recommend including them in your initial application. If you have not started, you can just add them as dependents, and they are able to work, study, or visit for the same length as your time. They do not need job offers or letter of acceptance for school. Dependents would be automatically issued visa status based on the fact that you have been approved to come to Canada and because of your relationship. Of course, there are other inadmissibility issues like medical and health and criminal record that have to be reviewed. But really, it's very easy to have your dependents come, and I will help you do their extensions and support their applications while you're here. Sometimes the students prefer to come to Canada first and do the 6 months, complete 1 semester, and they actually get situated. And this is, again, something that I can help you with. They would just start their own IRCC. So definitely lots of different ways to do it, and whatever works best for you. I was just sharing with the panel that we had one of our students finally get reunited with their family and their new baby, who was almost a year old. So definitely a nice part of my work that I like to help with.
For sure, and I think that's a great segue to our final slide and question before we move into the Q&A. And that's our curiosity, and we would like to know a bit more whether or not what your plans are upon graduation. So just give me a second to switch over screens here now. And so upon graduation, what are your extended plans? So are you intending on working and living in Canada? Are you intending on returning home, maybe traveling abroad, further studies, or you're undecided? Undecided is absolutely fine at this stage. Many of you, especially undergraduate students, are still 4+ years out from graduation. And so we understand that you do not have everything planned out. I certainly didn't have everything planned out going into first year of university. And so undecided is absolutely fine. So we'll give it a second here for some votes to roll in. There's one strong contender. I won't preview that though. I'll have to share the results so everyone can get an opportunity to see. Alrighty, with that, I'll launch the poll and I'll share the results. So the strongest winner today was work and live in Canada. So that's very exciting to hear that many of you intend on staying here in Canada with us and potentially pursuing that career upon graduation. There's a few of you that also plan on returning home or traveling abroad. Many of you are also continuing your studies. So you're gonna maybe level up your degree or upgrade your degree. And a few of you are undecided. Again, totally fine at this stage. It's still quite early in the game. So with that being said, we'll chat about the next slide, and that's simply the question and answer period. This is where our students get most excited, of course. Naturally, they get to ask Jennifer, myself, Hector, and Laura direct questions one-on-one. And so with that being said, we'll dive into the Q&A. Jen, I know you had a few marked right from the beginning of today's session, so I'll let you start with those, and then I'll start to filter through them myself as well.
Yes, lots of good questions coming in, and I saw a few in the chat, but I think you guys have pushed them all into the Q&A, so thank you for that. The first question coming from Parth is asking about medical refusals. So your weight is not a reason for a refusal of a medical. They're going to do chest x-rays and blood work is really what they look at. So they want to make sure no tuberculosis is what they're looking for, malaria, more of those kind of diseases, and do your chest x-ray. So the weight is absolutely not part of your immigration medical. Next question coming from Ravinder. I want to lodge my file for September 2021 as early as possible. Again, I did mention this in my presentation about the fees. Please just use the fees that we have posted now for your visa application. IRCC would not refuse it because the fees have slightly gone up and you didn't pay that difference. So I've been doing this for 10 years. I've never heard of that happening in my life. So it's very common that fees are not set until late in the year. So definitely you can just base your payment on this year and know yourself that come your winter term, you may have a little bit of a balance to pay. Joseph, does Lakehead University help me apply for the student visa and telling me the steps? Of course we do. So usually when you're admitted, I have prepared a next steps page that I give out to applicants. Kind of gives you an idea and a breakdown of what you're doing to apply. But just know that most of my experience is within Canada. So helping with study and visa extensions with your dependents, applying for your postgraduate work permit as well. But definitely connect with me if you have any specific questions or if you need that handout. Back to Ravinder, the letter for Masters of Ed 2021 SDS. So please, this is a question I get all the time from India. They tell me that their friends have only paid 2 semesters and were approved. Our master's program is 3 semesters in 1 year, and IRCC wants you to pay a full year of tuition. So I recommend you pay all 3 semesters to avoid any issues with your processing.
Awesome, Jen. I'll jump in here and give you a break, maybe to grab a drink of your coffee. We have a question from Sylvia. It says, hello, I'm from Ireland and I'm in my 2nd year of my 3-year undergraduate course. I really hope to do my postgrad at Lakehead. I intend on starting in autumn 2020. Do you suggest I apply now? So that's a great question. So applications for fall 2022 or autumn 2022 are not open quite yet. We typically open our applications nearly 1 year in advance for fall applications. So you can anticipate in September, October, roughly of 2021, so this year, our applications for the following autumn will open. I do encourage you to stay updated, so follow us on our social media channels at Lakehead International. When we open applications, we certainly make announcements so everyone is fully aware of them. If you're looking to apply for winter, whether it's winter 2022 or even beyond then, typically we open those applications in the summer, so you can anticipate they'll open either in June, July, or August. And deadlines do vary, so I certainly encourage all students to stay up to date or at least ask directly what is the application deadline, because there are certain programs that have limited enrollment or at least high very popular programs. And those applications typically close sooner than the general deadline. With that being said, Sylvia, if you have any more questions for us, if you would like to learn more about a postgrad at Lakehead University, all that sort of stuff, I encourage you to head over to our website, lakeheadu.ca/international. You can explore future student resources as well as book an appointment with one of our recruitment advisors. and they can certainly help you in that process and help understand your intentions in your study plans. And so they can best match you to either a program here at Lakehead University or advise you on what your next step should be. With that being said, another question I marked is from Arshad. It says, if I do a 1-year MBA and need to extend my visa as a work visa, how long will the visa be extended? So although I marked it, I know this is a question I have to pass over to Jen. I think I know the answer, but I don't want to misspeak. So Jen, if you could answer that from Arshad.
If you're doing the 1-year MBA program, so 12-month, you have to really pay attention because we have MBA 16-month, MBA 12-month. So the 12-month program would qualify for a 1-year work permit when you graduate, and any 16-month master's program, so all of our 2-year programs or the 16-month MBA will qualify for a 3-year open work permit upon graduation.
Awesome. And if you do have any questions about maybe you've applied to the 12-month stream and you're now considering the 16-month stream, considering that you could potentially get a 3-year work permit, you can always connect with one of our recruitment advisors and they can advise you and assist you on that process.
Yeah, I often get a lot of master's students who try to load up on their courses. So they'll take 7 or 8 courses, which really isn't allowed in each term. And they're like, oh, Jennifer, I finished all my courses in 3 terms. Yay. You're actually going to get a shorter work permit. So please make sure that you follow your study pathway. Immigration is watching for that. They now not only want to see you graduated, but they're checking over your transcript and looking for gaps of studies or part-time semesters, and to see how many terms you actually studied. So please don't try to fast track your master's program, as it could result in a shorter work permit when you graduate.
Awesome. Jen, I'll let you keep going on a few more questions there as I also go through the Q&A.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to read through them as well. So next one coming in, would you please explain the process of getting a visa for the first family member of the student who comes to Canada? So there are 2 ways to have your family come to Canada, and I'm talking about dependents. So this needs to be children and spouse. If you want to invite your sister or brother or mother, they would just do their own visitor visa application, and you could provide an invitation letter to show you're in Canada and you're going to support their file. But for dependents, you can either add them directly into your application. When you're answering the questions, it says, do you have any family members you would like to include? And you would say yes. You always start with your spouse and then children, oldest to youngest, and you can include them. If you include family members with your application, please remember that you must have more proof of funds. It's around $5,000 a year for each family member. So you need to show that you have more funds to be able to support them while they're here. The other option is to actually come to Canada or start your studies online from abroad or here. And then invite your family to join you later on, which means they would start their own file, completely separate application outside of yours. And you would include your study permit and enrollment from Lakehead to show that you're currently a student here to support their application. Awesome. I know there's a few questions about guardianship I've seen and about, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Jen, sorry.
I think I'm a little bit low. Okay, so I do see a couple of questions about dependents or about guardianship. Lakehead used to work with the Canada Homestay Network and no longer are working with them. They're not issuing this in Thunder Bay anymore. So right now we do not provide guardianship services for our minor students. We do recommend if you have family or friends in Canada that can serve as a guardian, that they would be able to complete that. But if not, there are different companies and so forth that would provide this service. Normally, if you're 17 on the cusp of turning 18, immigration might let it go. They may not even ask for that guardianship as you'll be within 6 months of turning 18. But sometimes they do request it within the form. So it's definitely something our minors may have to look into.
Awesome. I'll jump in here to give you another break to read through some questions, Jen. The first one is, how can I get a recording of this webinar? So thank you for asking that. Recordings of our live webinars from Lakehead International are posted on our YouTube after the fact. So what happens is today's session is recorded, as I've mentioned many times. I take the recording, send it over to our digital production team. They'll edit it so that it's nice and clean for all of you folks. and then they'll upload it to our YouTube channel. Typically that takes a few business days for that whole process to happen. Right now, the playlist you're looking for on the Lakehead University playlist, or on the Lakehead University channel, pardon me, is Lakehead International Lives playlist. There are a number of videos on there. New videos, when they're uploaded, we do our best to move them to the very top. However, sometimes you might have to scroll through the channel or scroll through the playlist, and you might even find it at the bottom. Another recommendation is that when we upload these videos, we actually call them the exact same name for easiness, and also your ability to search YouTube. So if you are looking for today's session, you can actually find this session from 1 month ago when we hosted it. And all you would have to do is search Lakehead University applying for your student visa. And in those search results, I'm confident you will find one of our videos populate right off the bat. Again, though, the last session we hosted about a month ago is already on our YouTube channel. And so if you're looking for today's session, please give it a few business days. I would anticipate that it will be up by Friday, this Friday, April 9th, or no later. Another question we had that I would like to answer is, many Canadian universities are accepting official transcripts directly from an applicant's previous institution. Is this true about Lakehead as well? So as far as I know, undergraduate and graduate admissions are still working with our applicants and being flexible to accept direct communication from institutions. So if you've previously completed for a high school diploma or maybe even an undergraduate degree, and you can't access going to that institution, they can't give you a hard copy of that transcript, but they can email from their institution's email directly to our admissions teams. In most cases, our admissions will accept that as final and official. I do encourage you to connect with our admissions teams to confirm just 100%. If they have any questions about that, they'll follow up, of course, and they'll do their regular processes. So Jen, I'll pass it back to you. I know you've marked a few more questions.
Yes, I'm trying to get some done. So I see we are getting close to our time now. Okay, so a couple of questions here. Does the student visa application face any issues if my uncle is a Canadian citizen? So of course, there's always a potential of refusal with your study permit application. And the most common one I would say is the ties to your community, or they do not believe that you will leave Canada after your designated stay is complete. So in a long story short, it could be because you have family members in Canada, and they call this thing called dual intent. So even though Canada has many programs that you can come here as a temporary resident and transition to a permanent resident, even a citizen, if you are coming for a temporary program and they think you want permanent status, they may refuse your application on dual intent. You may have heard this term before. So it's always good to give all information when applying. There's a thing called an SOP, a statement of purpose. You should always do a statement of purpose in your first application to come to Canada. And this is going to kind of give an overview of your story. Why did you decide to come to school? If you've already been educated and working, how is this going to help your future? Why did you pick Lakehead, and why did you pick the program you did? And what are your plans post-graduation? So of course, we always say it's important to be very clear to immigration that, you know, after your stay is done, you plan to go back home, back to your job that you've had, or back to your family, your property, anything that you have ties in your home community. So long story short, yes, an uncle could be an issue and it could not be an issue. I see this all the time with family members in Canada. But no, you must be truthful in your application, explaining everything. But uncles aren't really part of, like, when they ask if you have family in Canada, they're talking about immediate family. Okay, so does postgraduate plans affect the issuance of the study permit? So that's what kind of goes in hand with my last thing, with the dual intent. Even though we know many of our students want to stay in Canada permanently, you are coming here for a temporary program. So when you're completing your visa application, you must still have an intention to return to your home country, even though we know the chances are you probably will stay here on your work permit and then graduate. Okay, so I see the next question from Arian is asking, if you apply, do you get any advantage of postgraduate from our university? So yes, you get to brag to saying that you're a Lakehead alumni. You will be qualifying for a 3-year postgraduate work permit under your postgrad. And we also have lots of offboarding support, I should say, where we help you learn about different pathways to permanent residency within our community, within our province, and of course within our country, and provide you some career support as well. Okay, sorry.
I can jump in here. I'm just answering. I'm typing a few questions behind the scenes as well. So we have a question from Madhav. It says, how to apply for scholarships. So if you're an undergraduate applicant, you will be eligible for the undergraduate international entrance scholarship. There is no additional application necessary. So once you submit your application to Lakehead University, you will automatically be considered for the undergraduate entrance scholarship. And there are additional awards and bursaries that you can apply for on the My Awards portal once you've been admitted to Lakehead University. Typically, those applications open up at the end of June, and then they go until middle of October. In many cases, those scholarships, bursaries, awards are only applicable to returning students. So they're for upper year students going to second, third, and fourth year to continue their studies. However, I still encourage you to explore that My Awards portal to still learn more about that. For graduate students, scholarships work slightly differently. So there's opportunities for a graduate assistantship where you actually work with one of your professors and you'll help them with their either grading the material, that sort of stuff. And you will be informed on that offer letter whether or not you've received a GA-ship, so a graduate assistantship. If you haven't received that, there's also opportunity for faculty research funding. Again, that's something that is limited. And so I don't encourage you on intending or planning for that scholarship or that additional research funding. You are also typically informed, or you would be aware that your faculty or your supervisor has that funding available. On top of that, the My Awards portal is something that you also can access. Again, though, I recommend that students look into it and they're fully aware that many of those scholarships and awards are for returning students going into their upper years, second, third, or fourth year, depending on what level of study they're at. Another question that we have is, and I've just bumped it on my screen by accident. It says, when should I apply for a study permit after confirming my admission? And so it's a pretty simple answer. It's immediately after you are prepared to accept your offer to Lakehead University, whether it's a conditional offer or an unconditional offer. Our recommendations are to begin the visa process immediately. So if you start your IRCC account and then you start that application process, it essentially puts you on the waiting list or in the queue to be assessed by one of our immigration officers. It's very important, as Jennifer has noted many times, and as I like to stress also, is that given the current global pandemic, all processes seem to be slightly delayed no matter what company you're working with. But with immigration specifically, we're seeing very significant delays in processing. And so we want to encourage our students to apply early, and so that they don't see any delays as they're getting ready to prepare their travels and pack for Canada and join us here in Thunder Bay or Orillia. So Jen, I'll pass it back to you. I've answered most of the questions I had. I'm gonna again go through my list though as we catch up.
Yeah, you guys are asking good questions and coming fast here today. This is a good question. Good morning. Clarification from the USA. As far as the financial document, how does IRCC determine what applicant satisfies the 10K requirement? Does it matter where your income is coming from? Good news for you, coming from the United States, you literally can drive over the border or fly to Canada and apply for your study permit right at the port of entry. You do not have to do an application in advance. However, most students are studying online now, so they are deciding to still submit it online. I have never seen an American student be refused their visa because of proof of finance, and I have seen very, very different various documents included. So if you make a tuition payment to Lakehead University, or you have your US bank statements, the last 3-month statements, that will satisfy them directly. I don't think you're really going to have to worry too much about it. But again, if you go to the port of entry and apply, they're not even going to ask for your proof of finance. They're just going to ask you for your letter of acceptance. Very, very simple process for US citizens. I think I had a couple more here. So Aya is asking, is it better, faster to enter Canada with my valid visitor visa and then apply for a study permit, or apply from outside of Canada? How long does it take to process the permit from inside of Canada? So you can apply for your study permit, and then once it's approved, you can use the stamping in your passport you already have to enter Canada. You cannot enter Canada as a visitor and then apply for the study permit. Immigration does not like this, and they will refuse your application. Unless you came as a visitor, as an exchange student, or you're doing like a prerequisite program, that is the only way you can change your status from visitor to student in Canada. They will refuse it, tell you to go back home and apply for the study permit. So my recommendation is to get on there and apply for your study permit right away. And if you can't get a new stamping done in your passport, don't stress, just use the stamping you have. I believe you said it was valid till 2022, and then you can enter Canada with that. Okay, and then another question coming in. I've received a conditional letter of acceptance. Am I recommended to start the study permit application rate as soon as I receive my offer? Quite a few questions coming in. So I think Jordan and I have been very clear. Yes, as soon as you get that letter of acceptance, you should be starting the visa process. We are looking from 13 to 20 weeks in some countries. So please give yourself enough time for processing. If you use a conditional letter, please explain this to immigration on when you will meet conditions and when you will be updating your file, and then use the web form to update it. There was one person who said they would meet all conditions in the end of this month. You may want to just wait for your unconditional offer. Some students will not meet those conditions until July. That's way too late to be waiting to apply for a visa. Definitely start the application now with your conditional offer.
On that note, I'll add to that and just say, so many students are already aware that they have a conditional offer letter because they haven't submitted final results, test results, IELTS scores, their diplomas, essentially. There's a variety of options of why you might receive a conditional offer letter from Lakehead University, and you are most likely aware of when you'll receive those updated grades to then share to Lakehead University. Following that, there's definitely going to be a turnaround time, so Lakehead University can't commit to immediately reviewing it and resubmitting an unconditional letter. You can anticipate upwards of 2 weeks, 2 weeks including business days, to have that turnaround and hopefully an updated offer letter. With that being said, though, like Jen has mentioned and like I've impressed upon, is that even though you might have a conditional offer now, it's important that you still start the process, so you're adding yourself to that queue and being honest and open with the immigration offer, providing the exact details and what your plans entail and how you will satisfy both your conditions in the offer, and then when you anticipate you will receive that unconditional offer. If for any reason you feel that there's your grades that you've submitted, the documents you've submitted should suffice and you should have an unconditional offer letter, I encourage you to reach out to the admissions teams immediately so that they can look into your application and they can confirm maybe what's missing and what they need further. And then that might give you a better timeline on when you can anticipate to receive that unconditional offer letter. But that shouldn't change the fact that you should start your application for your study permit sooner rather than later. So I'm just going through some questions myself right now. We have a good one from Nitchin. It says, what are the documents that are to be submitted to IRCC? So right off the bat, one of the very first slides we talked about today were, as a part of that application, there's 3 things that are really key to your application that you should gather and have at the ready. The first one is your letter of acceptance. So your letter of acceptance is from Lakehead University. It essentially clarifies that you have an offer from our institution and you're eligible to study in Canada. The second is your passport, so your proof of identity. And the final is your proof of financial support. And so Jen did clarify that there's a variety of ways to provide that. Depending on your country, depending on where you're joining from, you can always ask maybe a fellow student or a fellow friend, family member that's done the same thing, joined us here in Canada and has submitted similar documents. We also, there's plenty of information, I'm assuming, on the IRCC website exactly explaining what financial support they are required. Jen, do you have anything to add to that? Did I miss anything there?
No, I think you captured it all. Like lots
Okay.
of questions just around the working and stuff. Sorry, I'm trying to answer a few in here too, but yes, you got it all.
No worries. So with that being said, I'll acknowledge we are at the end of today's session. It is 10 o'clock now. So I'll begin my little wrap up. I'll let Hector, Jennifer, and Laura answer a last couple of questions that they might be typing out. I do apologize if we weren't able to get to your question today. However, you can certainly send us an email at welcome@lakeheadu.ca, and we'll be happy to get back to you with more information. Whether or not we can answer it directly, or maybe we'll have to connect you with Jennifer, we'll determine that on our end. With that being said, you can also follow us and stay connected on social media. We are on Facebook and Instagram at Lakehead International. You can also find us on YouTube, like I mentioned. Lakehead University is our main channel. All of our webinars go up on the Lakehead International live playlist. All of our regular videos where you can get to know about international student life here on campus will be found at Lakehead International on that page. And last but not least, I want to encourage our viewers, if you haven't had the opportunity to check it out yet, go over to lakeheadu.ca/tours and take a virtual campus tour of Lakehead University. Whether you're joining us in Orillia or Thunder Bay, both campuses are on there and you can explore our facilities, our residents, our labs, the nature that surrounds our campus. It's really great for you to check it out. And on that note, I will wrap it up for today, and hopefully we'll see you at tomorrow for our in-depth with economics session, if that's a program of interest for you, or maybe you're an applicant out of that. And then of course, there's plenty more sessions coming up. So check out our website at lakeheadu.ca/international-live. I'll leave it there, and thanks again for joining us, folks. Bye for now. Thank you for checking out today's video. If you have any questions, you can always comment below. Stay connected and follow us on our social media channels to stay informed about upcoming webinars and get an insider sneak peek of Lakehead University. See you next time.